It has now been more than a year since the Avengers game initially came out, and it's kind of shocking to even think about that because this has been such a mind-blowing failure. I freaking hate the Avengers game because they've managed to squander so much potential. Like, straight up, everybody loves the Avengers. These are some of the biggest properties of all time. The fact that people managed to identify so much with the Hulk or Iron Man or Black Widow, each of these characters on their own is so beloved, and coming together is an even bigger W, and yet they've managed to screw it up by making this game such a stupid microtransaction-filled mess. But somehow they've managed to make it worse. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and the reason I'm even talking about this freaking awful game that, frankly, if I'm just being honest, I still kind of hate, is because of the Spider-Man updates. I'm obsessed with Spider-Man. I think the web slinger is seriously the coolest character that's ever been developed. I love Peter Parker, which is why I even did stuff like customizing my PlayStation 5 to be completely Spider-themed. Well, today, they've dropped the very hyped Spider-Man updates into Marvel's Avengers. Now, in preparation for this video, I decided to go back and play through each of the previous updates because this is a game that's supposed to be one of those games as a service projects. They continually have dropped new pieces of story over time, so now we got to do an entire adventure playing as Hawkeye, going through a series of quests inside of Wakanda as the Black Panther, and basically just punching this evil metal. Each of these updates has just been so appallingly bad because they just seem to miss the point of the fact that these characters are supposed to just be fun to play. Like, the entire reason that somebody wants to pick up the controller, specifically in a superhero game, is for that thrill of getting to have some great powers and fight off some very great enemies. Whereas this is the most stupid rinse and repeat experience. And unfortunately, this goes even more so for Spider-Man as well. Playing as Peter Parker is absolutely the stupidest thing. Now let's start off by talking about how the character plays, and then I want to talk about how much they've managed to screw up him as a freaking quest line. Like, he is just so bad that it actually aggravates me that they were so disrespectful to this amazing source material. So in this game, whenever you choose to play as Peter Parker, he's basically just a new side quest character. You can choose him and just do random quests whenever you want. In case you've never had a chance to play the very stupid Avengers game, the way this sort of works is that initially you're dropped into this big map. It's just this little tiny quest board, and whenever you want, you go on some randomized missions. Now, all of these are pretty much the exact same. You seriously only have 3 different variations of the same mission that you play through again and again. There's capture a zone, there's press a button, or there's defend a target. That's it. You're supposed to just play this game for hundreds of hours, leveling yourself up, getting random gear by doing these little minor stupid tasks again and again and again, and that's all of it. Now, when you're playing as Spider-Man, his special abilities are more around the idea of being a support character. You see, I've always kind of liked this idea of Peter Parker as a person, but he is not supposed to be the person who's out there at the front of the assault. He is not out there to have all these crazy superpowers, because when you think about it, his main thing is that he's very durable. Spider-Man can take some damage and stuff, but he doesn't have a laser gun, he's not shooting lights out of his eyes. Like, he's just a normal guy who happens to be a little bit tougher than some other individuals. So in this way, he plays the role of more of a support character. His abilities specifically in the Avengers game revolve more around the idea of being able to stun people by using his webs. He has this system called web build, which basically makes it where there's this meter above people, and as you're splattering them again and again, it slowly makes it build up, and when it's full, they're completely immobilized, which lets you do an instant takedown. Now, this is actually pretty dang useful. It's really cool. In fact, during the course of a bunch of my missions, I played with multiple Spider-Mans at once, and when all of you are together, web blasting people, unleashing your special attacks to stick a bunch of enemies to walls, it is a very, very effective character. Like, I feel like some of the people that exist in this game, like Vision and stuff, they just don't feel very well balanced. Everybody feels like kind of a tiny piece of a puzzle. A lot of times, the thing that drove me the most crazy in the Avengers game is that it does feel like a mobile game. It feels like this tiny experience that's supposed to just be you log in, you tap attack, and then it does your daily quest. Whereas Spider-Man, at least he feels more complete. There is this logical balancing to his skills that definitely make more sense than his compatriots, especially because it is nice to just straight up bash people about. Now, the game itself is still just very simplistic. You still just have a fast attack and a strong attack. Now, the other thing about this, though, is definitely the fact that the animations downright suck. Whether you're doing your mega special attack or just trying to do a tactical takedown, something about this just looks so cheap, especially some stuff like the fact that Spider-Man can just fly. Like, look at this. I'm doing the web swinging animation, but I'm 500 feet in the air. There's nothing. Am I just web swinging on clouds? This looks incredibly dumb and just so under budget. Like, clearly, the people who worked on this don't actually care. This isn't about making the most authentic Peter Parker experience. But what else annoys me about this is that other characters stay on the ground. There's other people who aren't able to fly and stuff like that. Why didn't you make him have like some sort of special coating where he could web sling, but only close to the ground itself? It would make it where Peter Parker would feel stronger when he's playing in the New York style city. Like when he's on Manhattan Island or when he's in the cities themselves, he would feel more appropriately powerful than when he's just in the middle of the desert. But you know what? It's clear they just don't care. The whole point of this is straight up to sell cosmetics. Let me just quickly say this. I know for a fact the only reason they even put Peter Parker into this game is to sell us extra microtransactions. The freaking Avengers game is crammed full of a gigantic store. Like, they've actually gotten in trouble with the fact that for a while this game was straight up pay to win. You could just pay real money to level up your characters incredibly fast, and it was just such a lazy mechanic. And now we're at a point that they have removed the pay to win aspects of this, but it still just has this ridiculously gigantic set of the fact that, like, look, there are 40 costumes you can buy with real money. A lot of these costing $10 each. You can spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars just trying to get some sweet freaking outfits for Spider-Man himself. There's even just 20 different emotes you can unlock. And of course, all the items that you have to pay with real money are the coolest outfits in the entire game. Like, here's my problem with this, is that the game is charging you so much for things that cannot just be unlocked easily on their own. In order to get this, you would have to play for weeks and weeks and weeks of daily quests to get enough of the pay-to-win currency to buy these costumes naturally. And you know what sucks about that? The Avengers game is still a completely broken mess. Even during the course of trying to play through a couple of these missions, testing out his stuff, you know what? The game constantly breaks. There are glitches everywhere, like whenever I'm trying to use the war table, sometimes it just won't work until I restart the game. I've had weird errors, like I wasn't able to quit missions. The game straight up crashes sometimes in the middle of a freaking quest. But worst of all, I've also had times where everything just straight up stopped working. We were in a mission where we were looking for the last enemy. The final enemy that we needed to kill to complete this mission was underground. A bunch of Spider-Men literally standing around an invisible enemy inside the pavement. This is such a destroyed pile of code, and they just don't care. Like, straight up, they're not even going to fix this, I bet. Even now, as they record this video, the developers are basically admitting the fact that these quests are so broken, they're not giving you enough units when you actually complete them. So even if you do manage to finish these broken quests, you're not going to be properly rewarded. But you know what really kind of annoys me the most is the fact that Spider-Man is in a game that's not built for Spider-Man. Marvel's Avengers tries to be the most cookie-cutter experience in a lot of ways. It wants to have a bunch of different heroes, but they all play pretty much the same. Like, Thor needs to be able to throw his hammer as fast as Black Widow's bullets. And because of this, the camera angle is always in the exact same spot. It is always incredibly close to the characters themselves. But Spider-Man, his entire skill set revolves around being faster than his enemies. It's about staying ahead of his foes. So it straight up ruins a lot of his best animations. The couple times I almost thought that something could look awesome, it ends up being so incredibly zoomed in, you can't even appreciate it. But wait, here's the most freaking aggravating thing of all, Spider-Man doesn't have his own quests. He doesn't. Instead, he's introduced in a cutscene where he basically asks the Avengers for help and explains why he hasn't been in the game beforehand. He's been fighting crime back in New York City. What he gets instead are essentially random sub-objectives. While you're doing the random missions that are just on the world map, whenever this happens, it'll just be like, all right, defeat 25 enemies, do 15 takedowns, or sometimes just tells you spam a couple random quests. And once you do all of these, you get a little teeny cutscene that gives you a little bit more plot. How did you screw this up? I am so aggravated because this is a PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 exclusive character. There's already so many spectacular Spider-Man games that exist on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. So the fact that you managed to make literally the worst PlayStation 5 game is this. You messed up Spider-Man for absolutely no reason. We get nothing out of this. It is just a waste of time. It is a waste of money, and it's a waste of your dedication. Screw this game. Square Enix, I'm sure you guys are going to be pissed about this video, but you know what? Fix the game. Respect Spider-Man. Stop just shoving him in here to try and make more microtransactions in your absolutely trash can store. Alright, there. Glad I got this out of my system. I love you guys very much. Thanks so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.